Today we are going to study quantum mechanics. The first question is that why do we need quantum mechanics even though we have already classical mechanics? Because there are experimental findings that cannot be explained by classical mechanics. There are 4 experimental findings that cannot be explained by classical mechanics. The first one is black body radiation. I briefly review the black body radiation. There's a cavity here. When I increase the temperature, the cavity will radiate radiation. It emits light. But the cavity wall cannot emit radiation indefinitely. The light can be reabsorbed. So after some time, rate of emission is equal to the rate of absorption. So it reaches equilibrium, thermal equilibrium. At thermal equilibrium, the intensity of light is stabilized. So when you measure the spectrum of the light inside the cavity, it looks like this. Y-axis represents the intensity of light inside the cavity, which is at equilibrium, at thermal equilibrium. Y-axis represents the frequency. The distribution curve looks like this. This curve is called black body radiation curve. So scientists try to understand this curve and derive this potential, this curve, but the classical mechanics cannot derive this black body radiation curve. This is the first experimental findings that classical mechanics could not explain. And the second one is photoelectric light. Here's a metal light with the frequency U is irradiated, then electron is ejected from the metal with kinetic energy. And according to experimental findings, there is a threshold frequency, new threshold. According to experimental findings, if the frequency of light is smaller than threshold frequency, the electron is not ejected, no matter how intense the light is. So this phenomenon cannot be explained. The existence of threshold frequency cannot be explained by classical mechanics. The other one is hydrogen atom spectrum. We have already discussed the hydrogen atom when I talk about Rutherford model. According to Rutherford atomic model, hydrogen atom composed of nucleus and electron, and according to his model, electrons are revolve around nucleus. But the problem is that the electron has charged particle, and according to classical mechanics, when the charged particle revolves around the nucleus, it continues to irradiate light. So it continues to lose energy. So electrons eventually collapse to nucleus. This is the problem. This phenomenon cannot be explained by classical mechanics. Furthermore, the electrons emit light. So when you measure the spectrum, because the electron continues to lose energy, according to classical mechanics, the spectrum must be continuous. So the spectrum must be show band structure. But according to experimental findings, the spectrum actually line spectrum. This is experimental findings. But prediction is band structure. So this spectrum cannot be explained by classical mechanics. Lastly, capacity. According to classical mechanics, heat capacity does not depend on temperature. When I draw the graph of heat capacity, y-axis represents heat capacity, x-axis represents temperature. According to classical mechanics, heat capacity does not depend on temperature. So they predict that this curve looks like this. Does not depend on temperature. But according to experimental findings, at high temperature, experiments aligns with classical mechanics. The heat capacity is constant. But when temperature decreases, heat capacity suddenly drops down and approaches to zero. So at low temperature, the classical mechanics cannot explain the experimental findings. So this part cannot explain by classical mechanics. In our textbook, this part, number 4, General Chemistry 2 deals with number 4, and General Chemistry 1 only deals with 1, 2, 3. Okay? So today we are going to study black body radiation first. But before diving into black body radiation, we are going to study the basic concept of wave, because quantum mechanics is based on the fact that particles sometimes behave waves. So I'm gonna take a few moments to review the basic concepts of waves. What is waves? Wave is a phenomenon that in which a physical quantity propagate through space and time. This is a definition of wave. A kind of physical quantity is propagate through space and time. Typical example of wave is light and sound. This is a typical example of light and sound. Then the question is, what physical property propagate for light? For light, electric field and magnetic field is propagated. So the physical property for light is electric field or magnetic field. How about sound? What physical property propagate for sound? The sound pressure propagate. Okay. So these two are representative example of wave. And physicists know how to deal with light and sound or wave. So they develop mathematical tools to describe wave. They describe wave using wave function. They develop wave function to deal with wave. The mathematical form of wave function looks like this. To describe this kind of wave. Here, t represents the temporal coordinate, x represents spatial coordinate. Then what does y represent? Y represents physical quantity, right? So if yxt represents sound wave, what y represents? Y represents sound pressure. If yxt represents light, then what does y represent? In this case, y represents strength of electric field or strength of magnetic field. Okay. The next step, then how do you obtain this wave function? According to physicists, they obtain wave function by solving wave equation. the mathematical form of wave equation looks like this. You don't have to memorize this wave equation. This is the wave equation for wave function should satisfy. So, to describe wave, the wave is described by wave function, and this wave function must satisfy this wave equation. Okay. So, in first step, you must set up this wave equation, and second step, you must solve this wave equation. Then you obtain this wave function. Here, v is the velocity of wave. But this kind of job is already studied prior to quantum mechanics. Wave is a concept already developed before wave mechanics is developed. Okay? And as I said before, wave is a phenomenon which is a physical quantity is propagated through space and time. So I can draw a snapshot of wave. This is a snapshot of wave. This is x. If x represents x, the distance between two consecutive crests is defined as wavelength, right? And according to physics, C equal Sandano. This is the velocity of wave. This is the wavelength here. This is the frequency of the light. And the important thing is that we can categorize wave based on wavelength or frequency. You may remember that chemists usually model chemical bond as spring. How do you know that the chemical bond actually is a spring? We conduct this kind of experiment. We irradiate light and install detector opposite side of the source, and when we measure the spectrum, it looks like this. So we have strong absorption peak here. Then what's the frequency of this light? Here, this light corresponds to IR region. Why? Because the frequency of light is approximately equal to the matches the frequency of the vibrational frequency of light. Generally speaking, vibrational frequency of molecule matches the IR frequency. Okay, so IR spectroscopy. Another name for IR spectroscopy is called vibrational spectroscopy. When you decrease the frequency of light, it is the microwave. When you decrease the microwave, molecule also absorbs. You can also another peak here. This is IR peak. This is micro peak. Then why this molecule can also absorb microwave? Because this molecule now this time can also rotate. In this case, the rotational frequency approximately matches the microwave frequency. So this peak corresponds to rotational peak. This peak corresponds to vibrational peak. So another name for microwave spectroscopy is rotational spectroscopy. And you increase the frequency of light IR, UV visibility. This spectroscopy is called electronic spectroscopy. As I said before, so H shell molecule has molecular orbital. And electrons are assigned on each molecule, and the electron can be excited to another orbital. Right? Then, how this electron can be excited? In this case, we use UV visible light. When you irradiate UV visible light, the electron can be excited to another orbital. So electron is moving. So this spectroscopy is called electronic spectroscopy because electron can be transferred to excited state. But in UV visible spectroscopy, usually valence electron is excited rather than co-electron. Now, in the upper level, we have X-ray. In this case, also called electron spectroscopy. But here, the X-ray photon has higher energy than the UV visible photon. In this case, usually, co-electron can be excited. So usually, when you use UV visible light, usually valence electron is excited. When you use X-ray light, usually co-electron is excited. And here is vacuum level. Sometimes valence electron are promoted to vacuum level. When the electron is in the vacuum level, it is that the electron is ionized. When the electron is in the vacuum level, it means that the electron experience no attraction from the nucleus. It is ionized state. So when you use X-ray photon, it is ionized. Okay. So this spectroscopy is called photoelectron spectroscopy. Finally, radio frequency is in this level. When do you use radio frequency? Hydrogen atoms are composed of proton and electron. And as you know, electron has two spin states, up spin and down spin. Similarly, proton also has up spin and down spin. We use radio frequency to change the spin state of proton, not electron. So when you use radio frequency, up spin transform to down spin. So we usually use radio frequency for NMR spectroscopy. This tool is very, very important tool for chemistry. And another name for NMR is MRI, which is very, very important tool for medical doctor. So we can categorize electromagnetic radiation based on frequency of light. It is also categorized the spectroscopy based on wavelengths and light. Okay, this is the basic concept of light. Now let's move on black body radiation. Just before, this is cavity. When I increase temperature, everybody, including cavity walls, emit radiation. But the cavity wall cannot emit radiation indefinitely. The light can be reabsorbed. So after some time, the system reaches equilibrium. So there is an intensity. The light is filled, the cavity is filled with the light, which is thermal equilibrium at temperature T. When you measure the spectrum of this light intensity, looks like this. But the interesting point is that let us assume that first the box, the cavity is made from iron. I obtain this spectrum. The question is that I'm going to change the material of this cavity. I want to change to copper and obtain the spectrum again. The interesting thing is that the curve does not change. Okay? The curve does not change on the type of material. Okay? It is an interesting point. I'm going to explain this one later. So this is the interesting point. This curve is called the blackbody radiation curve. This curve does not depend on the type of material or the shape of the cavity wall. This is an interesting point. So scientists try to understand this curve, try to derive this formula, but classical mechanics cannot explain. So this is the question. But before diving into classical mechanics, I'm going to review the very closed phenomenon which is related to this blackbody radiation. This one is called Maxwell-Boltzmann distribution. So I first review this topic, Maxwell-Boltzmann distribution. This one is very, very closely related to this one. In Maxwell-Boltzmann distribution, similarly, we have box. And inside box, particles move around. And similarly, the box is at thermal equilibrium at temperature T. This is a very, very important assumption. The box is at equilibrium at T. This is very, very important assumption. In blackbody radiation, also, the box is thermal equilibrium at temperature T. This is very, very important. The curve only depends on temperature. Okay? Similarly, in Maxwell-Boltzmann distribution also, the box is at thermal equilibrium at temperature. And you may know that the average kinetic energy of this particle is known to be 3/2 kBT, right? But as you may know that the average kinetic energy does not depend on the type of molecule, right? Average kinetic energy of helium is 3/2 kBT. Average kinetic energy of neon is also 3/2 kBT. The average kinetic energy does not depend on type of molecule, right? It is similar to blackbody radiation. As I said before, this curve does not depend on the material. Okay, similar. Anyway, so, but it does not mean that the average kinetic energy is 3/2 kBT. It does not mean that every particle has same 3/2 kBT. Some molecule have move fast. Some particle move less. Just average is 3/2 kBT. So this molecule has speed distribution. Okay, the distribution is called Maxwell-Boltzmann distribution. So the distribution looks like this. Here, x-axis represents the speed of the gas particle. Y-axis f is the probability that the molecule has speed v. The shape looks like this one. This is the Maxwell-Boltzmann distribution, and you may know that this Maxwell-Boltzmann distribution does not depend on this type of molecule. Okay, the distribution only depends on temperature. This curve is same as the blackbody radiation. So today I'm going to derive this formula. Maxwell-Boltzmann distribution composed of three main parts. First part, second part, third part. I'm going to derive each of them. The last part is called Boltzmann factor. This scientist is very, very important one. As I said before, earlier, some molecule moves fast, some molecule moves slowly, some molecule has higher energy, some molecules has lower energy. According to Boltzmann, the particle, the probability the molecule has energy E is proportional to this function. This is the result from Boltzmann. This result comes from statistical physics. So just accept it. It is derived from statistical mechanics. Okay. Now I'm going to apply this formula to our system. In our system, this is monotonic gas, so E equal just 1 over 2 mv square. So I'm going to replace E by this one. So the rest part is equal to this one. Okay, this is Boltzmann vector. And second term is very, very interesting. To explain second term, I'm going to take analogy. Now, this is a two-dimensional dartboard, and assume I'm going to throw dart randomly with my eyes closed. Dart scattered randomly, spatially. Okay. And I'm going to count the number of dots landing on a circle with radius r1, and I'm going to count the number of dots on a circle radius of r2 landing on a circle, not inside. Definitely, the number of particles on the radius of r2 is larger than the r1. Okay, the number of particles landing on r is proportional to definitely 2 pi r, right? Similarly, I'm going to extend this two-dimensional to three-dimensional. This is two-dimensional. I'm going to extend this two-dimensional concept to three-dimensional. Now, three-dimensional dartboard. Here, the dot is scattered randomly in three-dimensional, and I'm going to count the number of dots on a sphere with radius v1, and I'm going to count the number of dots on a sphere with radius v2. Then the number of particles landing on a sphere with radius v, it must be proportional to 4 pi v square. 4 pi v square is the surface area of sphere with radius v. Okay. Now the big question is that what does the point in three-dimensional space represent? What does this point mean? This is the big question. Now, according to Maxwell-Boltzmann distribution, inside the box, molecule moves around in three-dimensional, right? And this molecule moves in three-dimensional. It has its own velocity vector, right? This molecule's velocity vector is here. This molecular velocity vector is here. This one here. This one here. And I'm going to assume that this velocity vector is randomly distributed. So this point represents this vector. This point represents the velocity vector of this molecule. And the velocity vector of this one corresponds to this one. So in this three-dimensional diagram, each point corresponds to the velocity vector in this box. And I assume that the velocity vector of this molecule is randomly distributed. So the point in the 3D diagram is also randomly distributed. So, thus, given the V is given, the particles on this surface has all the same energy, right? The particles on the surface here all has same energy because the kinetic energy of the particle only depends on the length of vector, right? So all the particles on the sphere with a constant V has the same energy. So number of particles with the same energy is the proportional to 4 pi V square. This is the proportional to the number of particles with same energy. Okay. So second term is 4 pi V square. This term is called degeneration. Actually, this term comes from quantum mechanics. In quantum mechanics, degeneracy is defined as the number of states that has same energy. But this notion concept also applies to classical mechanics. This same, this 4 pi V square is the number of states that have same energy. Okay. Now, final term. Now I'm going to define F as the probability. This is Fv. I'm going to define F as the probability that the particle has velocity v, right? Then this function must satisfy important property when you sum all the probability, it must be 1. If the F means probability, when you sum all the probability, it must be 1. But without this term, when you add all the probability, it does not give 1. So you need this term. Okay? This term so is called normalization constant. So when you calculate this one term, this one looks like this one. So this is the Maxwell-Boltzmann distribution curve. When you draw this curve, it looks like this. But important point is that this formula does not depend on this functional form of this function does not depend on the molecule, type of molecule. It only depends on temperature. When the temperature increases, the functional form change. Does not depend on type of molecule. It is important fact. Okay, now let's move on. Black body radiation. Now here in Maxwell-Boltzmann distribution, inside the box, molecules moves around. Now I'm going to remove this molecule from the cavity. Then what happens? What is left inside this box? What is left inside? Here there is a light intensity limit. Still there is a light. I'm gonna derive here light, cavity is filled with light, and I'm gonna express the light spectrum. Here x-axis represents frequency of light, not a velocity of particle. Here I'm gonna express the spectrum of this light. So in this graph, x-axis represents the frequency of the light. and y-axis represents the intensity of light. I'm going to derive this one. So the first question is that, as I said before, I'm going to change this material. Then this curve does not change or same. This is the big question. Then again, the answer is that this curve does not depend on the material. This is the big finding for thermodynamics. Who did prove it? Kirchhoff proved. Kirchhoff proved that this curve is universal. This curve does not depend on the type of the molecule or shape of the cavity wall. Then how Kirchhoff proved that this curve is universal is the following. But Kirchhoff proved it not by experiment, but by thought experiment. Let's see how he proved it. There's a two box. And all of box are thermal equilibrium at T. And first assume that the light intensity inside box is different. So let's say this is rho A, this is rho B. This is assumption, and Kirchhoff demonstrated that if the two curve is different, it leads to thermodynamic contradiction. So it must be same. It's his logic. So even if the temperature is the same, the two distribution curve is different. For example, this one, and let's say this is the wavelength of U star. Then according to this graph, the intensity in box B is higher than the intensity B A in box A, right? So in this case, I'm going to connect these two boxes and install optical filter. The optical filter allows the frequency of light with nu star pass through. Only nu star can pass through this optical filter. Then what happens? Then from this curve, intensity of B is higher than the intensity of B. So light flows from right to left because intensity of B is higher than intensity of B at frequency nu star. So intensity light from B flows through light A from right to left. But this experimental finding violate the thermodynamic principle. Why? Because two systems are at same temperature. According to thermodynamic principle, when the two systems are at thermodynamic equilibrium, there are no energy exchange. But in this case, energy flows from B to A. So this one violates thermodynamic principle. So to avoid thermodynamic contradiction, two intensity must be equal. But this logic applies to another frequency. So all the frequency through the entire frequency range, all the intensity must be same. This is the logic Kirchhoff employed to prove that law must be equal. So finally, now, so box 1. This box, intensity rho. This box, intensity rho. This box, intensity rho. It does not depend on type of molecule. But when temperature T, the box 1 emit radiation, box 2 emit radiation, box N emit radiation. But some box emit radiation more effectively. Some box are good emitter. Some parts are poor emitter. The efficiency, the light emit is different, material to material, right? So I'm going to quantify how effectively the material emit light. It is epsilon 1. This is called emissivity. Emissivity, roughly speaking, refers to the how effectively emit light. Emissivity depends on the type of material. It depends on material. So emissivity for 2 is E2. This one is E. Okay. And similarly, objectivity also depends on the molecule. Some material absorbs more effectively. Some materials not so good. So alpha is called objectivity. Emissivity, objectivity depends on the type of material, right? But I need a few comments on alpha 1. What truly alpha means. This is material, and 100 is the intensity of light, and it absorbs 10. Then what happens when you increase the incident light 10,000? Then it absorbs 100. It means that the amount of absorbed light depends on the intensity of light, right? So the amount of absorbed light depends on incident light and the objectivity. So objectivity is the actually fraction of light which is absorbed. So here alpha equal 0.1. So to calculate the amount of light absorbed, we need two quantity, objectivity and the incident light. Okay. So here to calculate the amount of absorbed light, we need intensity of light. Intensity of light is this one. Emissivity does not depend on the incident light. So we need alpha. So in equilibrium, emitted light is equal to the absorbed light. So epsilon 1 equal alpha 1 rho. This is equilibrium condition. For cavity 2, epsilon 2 equal to rho. So finally, equal rho. This is the equilibrium condition. Even though alpha E depends on the type of cavity, rho does not depend on cavity. So here equal rho. Here rho. All the same rho, so I will cancel this one. So this is our final equation. And finally, I'm going to define this one. Define black body. Special body. I'm going to define this one black body as, because for black body, alpha 1, alpha equal 1. This is the definition of black body. Black body has alpha equal 1. It means that black body absorbs all the incident light. This is the definition of black body. So it is black. But be cautious that black body is different from black hole. In black hole, also black because it absorbs all the light. But once the light is entered the black hole, it cannot escape from the black hole. But for black body, it is different because in this case, alpha is constant. When alpha increase, what happens epsilon? Epsilon also increase. So when alpha is the highest value, E has also the highest value. So good observer means good emitter. So black body also good emitter. Okay, so it's basically different from the black hole. Okay, next time you are going to derive then law. Do you have any questions today? Then see you next time.